Now let's take a look at the Southeast. And the Southeast is also very important to our early history. A lot of these states were here at our founding: Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. West Virginia was part of Virginia, and these other states were not yet formed. But they are also very important early in our history because there's so much agriculture going on down here. A lot of our initial wealth came from these farms, like tobacco farms down here, which made America very strong, not just in regular commerce going back and forth, but our exports. We were able to export all these things and make a lot of money and made America very, very strong even before we were a country. So again, a lot of rich history here. Virginia was the center of gravity for America. Uh, Four of our first five presidents came from Virginia, which shows just how politically powerful Virginia was at the time. In fact, it was so powerful that our capital city, Washington D.C., is right next to Virginia. That was by design. It was a compromise to make sure that the capital was in the middle of the country and that Virginia would have some proximity and therefore influence over this city. It's important to note that Washington, D.C. is not actually in any state, and that was by design so that no one state could influence it. But Maryland and Virginia, because they're right next to it, that culturally they're going to have some influence over Washington, D.C., and the Virginians knew that way back in the day. The other cities that we're going to be looking at are Atlanta, a very important central city, Miami, and New Orleans. But first, let's take a look at the states and try to remember where everything is. And for us, it should be fairly easy knowing Virginia and West Virginia. And if we go down to Disney World again, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and then Florida. Um, the states that are probably next easiest for us are Kentucky and Tennessee. We've probably been in Tennessee or you know, even maybe even in Kentucky. Some of you may have gone to Maryland. I don't know if we I don't know anybody that's been to Delaware except passing through. But yeah, that's a small state, and that's something that's going to be tough to remember. So Maryland, Delaware, definitely get that to your memory. The other stuff should be easy. And then these four states are probably going to be the toughest for us. We got the twins over here, Mississippi and Alabama. Remember, Mississippi is on the Mississippi River. And then we got Arkansas and Louisiana. Louisiana is famous because it has New Orleans. And if you remember that Thomas Jefferson really just wanted to buy the city of New Orleans, but was coerced into buying the entire Louisiana Purchase, which was a huge swath of land, doubled our land size, if you remember, in US 1. And so Louisiana is the state that has New Orleans. Okay, so if you remember New Orleans, you'll remember Louisiana. All right, so let's take a look at these states. Again, a lot of agriculture going on through here: peaches, tobacco, got the palmetto tree. North Carolina is famous for the Wright brothers when they tested their aircraft over here. Virginia, of course, with all the presidents that they've had and the early influence in early America. West Virginia breaks off from Virginia during the Civil War, as we saw in US 1, is famous for mining. And then Kentucky, the reason why they got the horse here is because of Kentucky Derby, very famous horse race. Uh, can't go to Tennessee without running into some country music. Cotton, of course, in the Deep South, Florida, Flamingo, Disney World, beaches, Mardi Gras for Louisiana and New Orleans, and the Razorbacks of Arkansas. If you watch a lot of college football or basketball, then you'll understand this. So the South is much slower paced than the Northeast. It does have its share of older cities, but they did not grow at the rate of the Northeast cities. A lot of the South stayed very pastoral, um, more suburban or rural throughout our history. The cities sort of reflect that. I mean, we've got Washington, D.C., which is our nation's capital. I already talked about that. And Atlanta, which is probably the hub. I mean, if we're talking big cities in the South, you're probably thinking of Atlanta. Atlanta is a very big city. It is a very important city because it's a transportation hub. If you take a flight from one part of the country, let's say you're taking from a small airport in Tennessee and you want to go out to California, you're probably going to take that small plane to Atlanta, transfer to a larger plane, and then go off into towards California. So a lot of air traffic goes into Atlanta and then goes to their final destination. Likewise, you're coming from far away, go to Atlanta, and then you take a small plane to, I don't know, Bristol or whatever, small airport, Roanoke. And so it is a very important hub for the South and really for the entire eastern part of the country. New Orleans, nicknamed the Big Easy, it's the port city that straddles the Mississippi River, um, known for Mardi Gras and all its parties and everything. But remember, this is the bottleneck for the Mississippi River. If you control New Orleans, you control the entire Mississippi River. And in US One, we remember just how important that river was to our commerce, to our country. If these products cannot go from Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, and get out that Mississippi River, then all this trade is stopped. So, very important city. Throughout history, it was originally owned by the French, then went to the Spanish, back to the French, and then we bought it, and it's been ours ever since. And finally, Miami, a very beautiful city. A lot of people go there for vacation. Uh, Beautiful beaches. Some parts of it are really, really posh, and for the rich, I suppose rich people like to go down there. And like any other city, it's got its rough parts, but it's definitely known for its tropical weather because if you look at it, it's way down here at the bottom of Florida, very warm weather. So if we're looking at our cities for the southeast, we can see that Washington, D.C. is up here in the north. They kind of make a triangle. New Orleans over here, Miami over here, and then Atlanta in the middle. So also remember that the rich history, remember the map that I showed in US 1? Most of the Civil War battles took place in Virginia, and many of the Revolutionary battles took place all along the South. Remember to write down your vocabulary words here in your vocabulary page in your notebook. We have Gulf, part of an ocean or sea that is surrounded by a lot of land, and Delta, land made of silt left behind as a river drains into a large body of water, such as a gulf. So when we're talking about Gulf, we're really talking about the Gulf of Mexico right over here. This is the Gulf of Mexico. And then a delta, the river delta, is right here at the end of the Mississippi River. Let's see if I have a picture. Yep, there it is. So the river comes in and then it just splits into a whole bunch of little different, like tributary river type things that empty into a larger basin of water. In this case, it would be the Gulf of Mexico.